Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Dicey Dungeons. Dicey Dungeons is a dungeon crawler that puts players in the role of a dice block running endlessly through a series of dungeons designed by Lady Luck, who hosts the runs as a game show. You pick a class and launch yourself face first into Lady Luck's dungeon, building a deck of cards and hoping that the dice, the ones that aren't you anyway, land in your favour. Dicey Dungeons is such a fantastic game. I want to get that out of the way right off the bat. I'd seen some people talking about how much they'd been enjoying it, and when I looked into it, figured that a glance at the Steam store page was enough to know pretty much everything I needed to know before diving in. Randomized dungeons, cheeky sense of humour, deck building, RNG. Seemed simple. I was wrong. The core gameplay itself is fairly simple. You traverse the dungeon, defeating enemies, finding and upgrading cards, which form your attacks and special abilities. In combat, you roll a number of d6s depending on your level and use the results to power your moves. Rinse and repeat until you either die or defeat the end boss. There's a ton going on in Dicey Dungeons, however, and Terry Kavanagh has put a really unique spin on a newly developing genre, the dungeon crawling deck building mashup that doesn't have a catchy name yet. It all starts from your choice of character. Before you even really unlock the meat of the game, you need to play one run as each character class, sequentially unlocking the next, whether you win or lose. Each character plays remarkably different from the last. I'd assume they'd have some differences, but Dicey Dungeon's different classes fundamentally alter the way you play and approach the way you build your deck out, and how you approach each of the titular dungeons. The warrior, for example, is fairly straightforward. You generally just need to get the highest numbers on the dice to do more damage with your weapons, which you can only use once each per turn. The second character you unlock, the thief, has smaller weapons that are reusable that only accept smaller dice rolls. Essentially, the very next character you unlock flips your entire way of thinking about how to play a dice-based game, as to really get the most out of the thief, you'll need lower rolls as opposed to higher ones. A 6 is useless when your primary weapons can only accept dice rolls of 3 or lower. The other classes change the formula up in even more dramatic ways. The Inventor scraps one card after every battle to create a new piece of equipment that takes the place of your special ability. The Robot doesn't even roll dice, but gains them in a risk-reward blackjack type game. The Witch doesn't equip cards as abilities at all. Instead, she works from a spell book and uses the dice to prepare spells that are then used as abilities, able to chop and change prepared spells on the fly. I could, and maybe will in the future, spend an entire video talking about how each of the different classes alters how you approach the game to such a fundamental degree that they could all be protagonists in their own game. But the short version is that the end result is magnificent. Dicey Dungeons is the very epitome of the phrase easy to pick up but hard to master. The core gameplay itself is relatively simple and easy to grasp, but mastering each of the different characters and their wildly different playstyles takes some effort. And it's well worth the effort, trust me. It's so ridiculously easy to get sucked into making just one more run. Fights are fast-paced but highly nuanced thanks to the way you can build out your character and the different mechanics you can take advantage of. Cards don't just do damage to enemies. Some heal, some shield, others do elemental damage that attack not just your enemy, but their dice and cards, and conversely, yours. Shocking an enemy, for example, causes one of their cards to become completely unusable unless they spend a dice to remove the shock. Or you could freeze them and turn the highest rolled dice to a 1. There are loads of different effects you can use and face as you make your way through Lady Luck's dungeons, and plenty of ways to build your character to take advantage of synergies or protect yourself. I've played a lot of runs in my near 5 hours with Dicey Dungeons, and I've never felt like the game was getting repetitive. The episodic format of the game helps with this somewhat. After completing your first run with each character, you unlock new episodes to play through. These episodes add modifiers to give you a different kind of challenge, such as making all your cards upgraded as soon as you find them, but cursing your character, meaning that there's a 50-50 chance that one of their abilities won't successfully activate each turn. Overcoming these specific challenges gives Dicey Dungeons a ton of replayability, which is something the game already had in spades, and makes the game almost feel like you're solving puzzles. There are a couple of small issues I do have with the game. The Witch character, which Dicey Dungeons rightfully categorizes as the hardest character to play, is fantastic conceptually, but constantly feels underpowered due to her having to fill out a spellbook. It feels like if you don't get lucky with the cards you find really early on, you'll struggle to make it out of the second floor. Also, when you're playing the game in windowed mode, the game looks gorgeous, but once you go into full screen, the game seems like it doesn't up-res the art, merely stretches it to fit the new resolution, which is a shame because the art is really great. But these are just a couple of minor quibbles that do nothing to dull my enjoyment of this really compelling dungeon crawler. I've tried not to go into too much depth about all the different mechanics and systems at play, because part of the fun of Dicey Dungeons is figuring stuff out and working out new strategies as you play. But there was never a moment when I was playing where I felt like I wasn't having a good time, even when I was getting my butt kicked. This is a great mashup of deck building and dungeon crawling with some brilliant ideas around class variations that truly make each of the different classes feel unique to play, and I highly recommend you give it a shot. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got tons of awesome videos coming every week, including review impressions, indie game of the week, debate-driven top 5 lists, video essays, and our weekly podcast where we discuss games, gaming culture, and the games industry. We also stream 3 times a week at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. But most importantly, have a fantastic day.